Your next speaker is Craig Holcomb, and he's going to speak on addendum items number 11 and 12.
Good morning. I'm Craig Holcomb. I live at 3601 Turtle Creek. I'm representing the Trinity Commons Foundation and speaking in favor of addendum items 11 and 12. This weekend, a music critic at one of our local newspapers wrote a particularly vituperative column about the Margaret McDermott I-30 bridge. While I did not agree with him, I'm going to use his column as the structure for my remarks. First, what he did not say, which is that 156,000 vehicles per day use this bridge right now. In the future, that number will only get larger, and providing these arches will enhance the life of everyone who's driving that bridge. That is incredibly important and good. In addition, he did not point out that the arches are being built at no extra expense to the Dallas taxpayer. Those two things are a signature achievement in and of themselves. But secondly, he complained that the arches were not over the vehicular lanes or over the pedestrian and bike lanes. As a city, under the leadership of Councilman Griggs and Councilwoman Hunt, we have said we want a healthy lifestyle with more bike lanes, more pedestrian lanes. That is what we are doing with this bridge. The Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge does not have those lanes. That is a significant signature achievement that is following the policies set by this council. Third, he complained that the arches look like arches that Mr. Calatrava has designed in other places. Well, I would point out to you the Frank Lloyd Wright designed Kalita Humphreys Theater on Turtle Creek. If you go to New York and look at the Frank Lloyd Wright Guggenheim designed Guggenheim Museum on Fifth Avenue, you will notice they look a lot alike. That does not detract from their beauty or their architectural significance. Having these arches is a signature achievement. Finally, he complained because the arches weren't big. Well, my friends, we have all heard Dallas criticized over and over for only wanting to build big and flashy. So the fact that we're building something simple and elegant and small is actually a step forward in our sophistication as a city. I would point out that that is also a signature achievement and would urge you to vote yes on addendum items 11 and 12. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holcomb. And I'd like to, anytime our city council people are in the audience, we'd like to recognize them. Thank you for coming. And thank you, Mr. Natensky. See you up there as well.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Caraway has advised me that he wants to pull agenda item number 22 for individual consideration. Therefore, for the City Council's approval on the consent agenda items number 3 through 6, 8 through 21, 23 through 27, 29 through 31, addendum items number 1 through 10, and addendum item number 13.
Do we have a motion to approve? We had a motion and a second. Discussion?
Mr. Mayor, can we ask for a repeat of the items, please?
On your consent agenda items number 3 through 6, 8 through 21, 23 through 27, 29 through 31, addendum items number 1 through 10, and addendum items number 13. As well, addendum item number 20 was corrected on the addendum.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. I will say one thing, partners. I'll send out a memo. I'm going to refresh our city council rules of engagement on pulling items. We seem to be all kind of waiting to the last minute. It's not fair for the other council people to not understand those issues and study them. So I will pull that back out of the archives and send that memo so we can make sure that we get back on track on that issue. But we'll move ahead today. I'll call items number 11 and 12. Ms. Rios, for you to read. Addendum item 11 and 12.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Addendum items number 11 and 12 need to be considered collectively, and Councilmember Coop does have a conflict and will step out of the council chamber. As well, Councilmember Griggs has pulled addendum item number 11 for individual consideration. Addendum item number 11 is authorized, number 1, the receipt and deposit of funds in the amount of $5 million from the Trinity Trust Foundation for the construction of the Interstate Highway 30 bridge pedestrian and bicycle components. Number 2, the receipt and deposit of donated funds in the amount of $443,423 from the Dallas Foundation. Number 3, an increase in appropriations in the Interstate Highway 30 Bridge Donation Fund in the amount of $6,321,203. And number 4, payment to the Texas Department of Transportation, TxDOT, for construction of the bicycle and pedestrian components of the Margaret McDermott Interstate Highway 30 Bridge over the Trinity Floodway. Addendum item number 12 is authorize a project-specific agreement with Dallas County from funding participation for the design and construction of Interstate Highway 30 bicycle and pedestrian connections between Riverfront Boulevard and Beckley Avenue. Again, Councilmember Griggs pulled addendum item number 11.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion. Ms. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am delighted to offer a motion to approve addendums item 11 and 12. These items were discussed at the Trinity River Corridor Project Committee and recommended to be moved forward for approval to the full council unanimously at that time. Councilmember Holcomb, thank you very much for your very eloquent defense of this bridge and your corrective of a writer who appears not to have studied the facts. Thank you also for your continued involvement, along with that of Mary McDermott Cook, Gail Thomas, and Councilmember Natensky, who are sitting with you. This bridge shows the involvement of our entire community through the private donations of the Trinity Trust at a substantial amount, through funding by the RTC, which represents the entire region, through the very generous donations, or rather grants, money from the federal government secured by our federal delegation, most notably Senator Hutchinson, Congresswoman Johnson, and Congressman Pete Sessions, all of whom are very much interested in this vote this morning. I know that because I've heard from them. This is a signature honor for the city of Dallas. We are an international city, and this is another denotation of that international status. Mr. Mayor, I've already made the motion, but I am most pleased to reiterate that I move approval of addendum items 11 and 12. Thank you, sir.
We have a second as well. Discussions, Mr. Griggs.
Thank you, Mayor. On these big projects, I'll make a few comments. First is the opportunity cost that's involved. Anytime we go over budget on a project like this, we have to use an ask to the federal government, an ask to the RTC, and that represents an opportunity cost. So these big projects, we really have a duty to keep the costs under control. And this one with the bridge being at $74 million initially for the decorative elements, and now the decorative elements with the bike and pedestrian facilities coming in at over $100 million shows that we're not keeping the cost under control. So that means we have to go use an ask, which is an opportunity cost. Second is on policy. With these asks, we've already had the ask made and the ask granted. And on making these asks, that should be a policy discussion at this horseshoe, how we want to use our asks, because those have value. In fact, here, we put the cart before the horse. The asks have been made, the asks have been granted. And so here we are, really, from a policy perspective, the policy's already been set before it gets to the policy-making body. And so that's a concern on how we operate with these big projects. Third, we really need to work on funding the O&M on these projects. These bridges are very expensive to maintain. I believe the first Calatrava bridge is on the order of $250,000 per year to maintain. And I was wondering, do we have an estimate on the second bridge? What will be the maintenance?
The current estimate for O&M on this bridge is $450,000.
$450,000. The first bridge is $250,000. And does this money come from our streets budget, or which budget?
I don't know.
General fund, but and what's our streets budget approximately for all of our streets in the city of Dallas?
There's $60 million.
60 million. So these two bridges are on the order of 1% of our entire street budget to maintain two bridges. So that's why it's so critical here, because these bridges are expensive to maintain. We got two bridges, 1% of our whole budget for maintaining all of our streets, fixing all of our potholes. We have potholes, we need repairs. And so that's why we need to set aside for the O&M. And I know on this, not only do we need to look for ways up front to fund any cost overages, but almost more importantly up front is we need to find sources to fund the operation and maintenance of these bridges. I know this project, we're borrowing some money from the first Calatrava bridge. I think that those funds should stay with the first Calatrava bridge, that over $1 million, to offset O&M, because these are certainly costly to operate and maintain. And that's how we are in the city of Dallas. To move forward, to be a 21st century city, we need to look at not only ways to get these big projects done, but get them done on budget, and then to get them done in a manner where up front we're helping to offset the enormous O&M. So there's still money where we can restore our basics. Potholes, street lights, our arterials, and our other items is so critical. So those would be my three issues with this big project. One, by going over budget, there's an opportunity cost associated with these asks. Number two, almost from a policy perspective, the decision's already been made, because the asks have been made and granted even before this body fully discussed it. And three, the O&M. We really need to focus on ways to take care of this O&M up front, because these two bridges are over $600,000 a year in maintenance, which is over 1% of our entire street budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griggs. Mr. Carraway.
Thank you, Mayor, and I understand Councilman Griggs' concern. But one thing I will say, you know, if we're going to continue to be the city on the lead, then we're going to have to continue to step out. I want to thank all of and everyone that's been involved with the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge. I'm very excited about the Margaret McDermott Bridge that's coming on I-30. I'm also pleased that when we have folks coming in from California and you look at the decor of the Convention Center Hotel when you're coming in on I-30, and I was driving the other night, and it's like I was trying to say, how does a person who's never been to Dallas, when you first see the skyline, that is the greatest impression of the excitement that you're going to enjoy in that city, and great memories. I think that we have a responsibility to make sure that the excitement is here, but we also have a responsibility to make sure that we control the finance, as Councilman Griggs has so eloquently stated. But I don't think we hold the city hostage. I think we have good people with true commitments of making sure that Dallas stays on the mark. And we have a challenge. And Mayor, our challenge is, one, we need to simply find new revenue. There's a lot of revenue that's left on the table that we're not taking advantage of in a whole lot of areas that could subsidize some of these concerns we're having as relates to streets. When we have projects, facilities like the Fair Park, that we're leaving dollars on the table and not putting everything that we have into it to make sure that the revenue is generated there, using the Cotton Bowl more than 2 and 3 times a year. I think that our focus should be on how we can generate additional untapped revenue that we are leaving on the table, and then we can come back and subsidize those things. Plus, on top of that, we can continue to move forward with big and great things. So I don't think that we are in a situation where we should not do great things such as these bridges. I'm excited and appreciative of everything that you all have done. Brother Latinsky, I'm excited with the RTC. To the Margarets, I'm excited about that. Craig, all of you, and all the work that you will continue to do. I think that the current bridge that we have has offered a lot of excitement, has generated a lot of things that's going to take place even greater in the West Dallas area, and not just West Dallas, but all of Dallas. I did my own survey about it. I was asking people, what do you think about that bridge? Is it significant? Did we do the right thing? And they were excited about that bridge. And we need to continue to try to figure out what else can we do. And we're going to do more. And it's going to cost this city for us to do more, but it's going to cost this city to compete with the Central Parks of New York's and the Las Vegas and the Hollywoods and all the other great things that's happening across the world. We're not a second-class city. We're not the richest city, but we're not the poorest city. And we're a city and folks with vision. And Mayor, I just continue to say, let's keep up the good work, and let's try to figure it out. But now, let's not get wild with our spending. Let's make sure our O&Ms, Councilman Griggs, are under control. But we can do that by way of doing other things that we're not currently doing and leaving dollars on the table that we need to roll up our sleeves and find this new revenue so we can continue to make sure that our streets are safe, our potholes are gone, and our citizens are happy. Mayor, I think I'm through for a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Caraway. Mr. Atkins.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, when you are in a great city, you want to be international, you got to do big things. And Scott, I wish that you came to Boston with us, and you look at the big dig in Boston, the big dig. You know, they said it might cost $4 million, but it cost $24 billion. $24 billion. And when they did that big dig, it's opened up the entire city. Sometimes you got to do big things. We are in Big D, and Big D means we're going to do big things. You look at West Dallas. Many people think West Dallas is a second-class city. We put that bridge, they said, to nowhere, but it is to somewhere. Lava Harbor, the residential over there. People is moving to West Dallas. People is moving to West Dallas. When people come to the city of Dallas, they want to see that bridge, the icon. San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge. We, the city, 3 cities came out of recession, and Dallas was one of those cities in the top 3 that came out of recession. Why did we come out of recession? Because we made money, we did big things. The Deck Park, the Art District, the Fire Park, the Convention Center Hotel. That's O&M. Convention Center Hotel, we went to the taxpayers, and they told us, do not build a hotel. But the voters said build a hotel. It was a risk. Still fall back on the general fund, it would fall short. But it was a risk. We grow our tax base. Long as we grow our tax base, we are going to take care of O&M. Long as people move in the city of Dallas, long we got more permits. We look at our permit department, we had a problem. Last year, we did over $700 million in permits. That was $6 million to the general fund. Look, $6 million to the general fund. Now, part of that $6 million we did not have can go for O&M. We got a great city manager. We got policymakers, the Trinity Trust, Von Seal. Everyone get briefed. We know it's going to cost big money. And people are not going to come to the city of Dallas if we don't have the outcome, and we got to make sure West Dallas is taken care of. And this bridge was for nowhere. And I recall Steve Salazar said, when I first came on this council, we talked about the bridge, but guess what? I came back, it took us 16 years to see it done. But we got to make sure The people in the city of Dallas realize we are going to take chances. We got to take big chances because we Big D. And people is coming to the city of Dallas. I'll look at the TV this morning and say, how many Canadian people come to Dallas? They spent over $200 million in this region coming to the city of Dallas. Long as we do big things in the city of Dallas, we are going to have a risk, and a risk to the taxpayer. But long we do great things to the city of Dallas, we are going to grow. I remember when Bowen was going to be here, and they decided to go to Chicago because we had nothing to do. Downtown was dead. No bridge and no nothing, no excitement, like Dwayne said, no excitement. We got to have excitement city. We got to be excitement. But we also got to be smart. We balance our budget each year. We always balance the budget. We have a problem with potholes, we fix the potholes. We have a city manager form of government. We got a city manager. I think she's going to make sure that we spend $774 million for the bridge. She's going to make sure she put back $400,000 for O&M to make sure that bridge is taken care of. With that, policymakers, we are the policymakers. So we got a policy problem, let's fix the policy. We got a financial problem, the city manager is going to fix that. She's a great city manager, she got a big purse, she got plenty of money in the purse to fix the problem. And the taxpayer is going to make sure she fixes the problem. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Ms. Grayson.
Thank you, Mayor. Jill, I have two financing questions. On this agenda item, it says that we're receiving $5.5 million, both from the Trinity Trust and the Dallas Foundation. $5 million from Trinity Trust, about $500,000 from the Dallas Foundation. But later on, it says that we're getting $6.5 million in bridge donation funds. Where's the other $1 million coming from?
From other donations that were given to the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge.
So they were given to the Hill Bridge, and we're going to move them over and use them on the McDermott
Yes.
Bridge. Okay. And then in the 2003 bond program, it's $646,000. Is that specifically coming from bond funds that were for the Trinity project?
No, it's for the public art funds from the 2003 bond program.
The what? The public art?
Public
art.
art.
Those are the public art funds?
Yes.
Okay. Those were my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grayson. Ms. Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jill, I was just wanting to understand what will happen if this bridge goes over budget again. Where will funds come from, and where will we look for them? We just saw such an increase in the last Calatrava bridge. We saw that go up and up. What will we do in this case?
Well, in the resolution that we passed last June, we are responsible for cost overruns. And so we will be working to make sure that we don't have increases, and then we would look for things that we could trade out, and then we would need to come up with additional funds. Now, one thing an advantage that we have on this contract that we did not have on the Margaret Hunt Hill is that this is a lump sum contract. Margaret Hunt Hill was a quantity, a unit price. So if we went over in a ton of steel, we had to pay, more money per ton on the Margaret Hunt Hill. This is lump sum, so there's fewer opportunities for the contractor to ask for change orders on this one.
So if there are change orders, will they be coming back? They will be coming back to the city for funding.
Right.
And we'll either have to find some bond funds, some general fund monies, or reach out to community partners again and ask for their help.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt. Ms. Hasso.
Is it on? Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mayor. And Jill, would you talk a little bit about the $20 million savings? We talked a little bit about that in committee, and so I wanted an understanding out there of the public that, this, and I understand the O&M, when you're talking about 1% of the total street budget, that seems to be something we could live with, especially after what my colleagues talked about in terms of, Dallas creating and doing big things, and everything I hear out in the public. I've had lots of one-on-ones, and people are very, very excited that Dallas continues to move forward, continues to do great things, and we do have to keep our eye on the finances, but I tell you that the perception of even just our citizens and then perceptions of people outside of Dallas has been greatly, greatly increased. I was born and raised here in Dallas, and I can tell you that to hear all the great things that have been happening in the past 2 to 3 years for someone who was born and raised here is just amazing. I mean, I've never had people come up to me and say, "What are y'all doing over there?" or "We're doing great things." So I think that's a plus. I think we should capitalize on that and look for additional money where we can. And in terms of the policy setting and the asks that we actually go out for, those things might have been done many years before those of us sitting here today, especially the new ones. And I consider myself one of the newest. That must have been done, it had to have been done way before our time, because these things don't just happen, in 2 years. It takes years and years. And certainly, the families that are here in Dallas, all of those people that ponied up for the AT&T Performing Arts Center, people like the Cooks. Gail Thomas was out raising money for this particular item from people who've never given before. So, we really have to partner with our businesses here in Dallas and our families and our private donors and let them understand that, we do still have our eye on the finances and on the maintenance, but we understand that we want to make Dallas bigger and better. So if you could a little bit, I have 2 other things. If you want to talk a little bit about the $20 million savings, and then I want you to talk about the opportunity for savings through the contractors. And again, thank God this is a lump sum, but I think that we've got 2 great opportunities to save even more money on this, and maybe that goes to maintenance, to O&M. So if you could talk a little bit about the $20 million. If you could talk a little bit about the contractor savings. And I just want to add that as Vice Chair of the Arts Committee, I think this is something that certainly lends itself to the arts community. We have not depleted that fund at all, and I'm very, very proud that we can add to this as part of our arts culture. So if you'll talk a little bit about the $20 million and the contractor savings.
Right. When TxDOT estimated the cost of this project, and then the bids came in at $20 million less than the TxDOT estimate. Now, the challenge for us is that we don't know we don't control where the contractor puts things like mobilization and profit and those kinds of things. So it would appear that our piece is over budget. It could be, however, that the contractor put things into our piece that, he felt confident that we were going to do this, that this was a lump sum, so he's guaranteed that he's going to get that money. And, we can't prove that one way or another because that's the contractor's business. This was a concern that the city staff had when we went into this, because we knew that the ordering the steel would be one of the first things that was done. And so it'd be a large chunk of money going out the door early in the contract, which helps bring money forward in the contract, which helps a contractor finance a deal throughout. So the whole project is $20 million under budget. So I think we as a region should feel good that we've got a good overall price from the contractor, that we've got a good bid, and that we as a region are getting our money's worth. It's just how we set this arrangement up with TxDOT. We are responsible for funding the overages on the frontage road and the pedestrian amenities, and so we're the ones dealing with this challenge. The good news, however, is it is a lump sum. Now we are, potentially talking about doing a change order to improve the pedestrian access on either side of the bridge. And if we get good pricing from the contractor and if we have the money available, we are planning on bringing a change order back to you all. So that's a potentiality that's in the works. Then your next question.
The contractor savings, where they can,
Where they can go. So we are also looking and working with the contractor on what we call value engineering. So we're looking at how can the contractor build this bridge in a more cost-effective manner and produce savings. So the first kind of things that we're looking at are really boring technical things that you and I would never see. So it's things like the welds, the specs called for the welds to be kind of sanded on the inside of the arch in addition to the outside. Well, we would see the outside. The only person who's going to see the inside is the bridge inspector, so we don't need to do that. We're talking to him, to the contractor, about bolts versus welding. We're probably going to change out the railing to make it a more cost-effective design. So we're going through a bunch of the items. Now, some of the items we don't have final pricing for because it's something that one of the contractor's subs will do, a fabricator. So we're still getting pricing in on that. So we're continuing to work on value engineering and continue to make this the most cost-effective project that we can.
great. And I think that was the point that I wanted to make, was that with the value engineering process, there is opportunity to save costs on this. Those are the little things that save big money, the sanding, the rails. So I want folks out there in the public to know that there is a very, very huge focus on making sure that we are saving costs at every turn on this. And I'm not sure that happened with the first bridge. So, we're all very much more savvy now, and we understand it a little better. So thank you so much for explaining that to us, and thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Hasso. Ms. Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Jill, I see that this is in three different individual districts, which is 2, 3, and 6. So how will it does it kind of stretch it in those particular districts, 2, 3, and 6, the bridge?
It's just a function of where the bridges line up and where they fall on their landings and
okay.
They cross.
Well, let me say this. I think, there is a business owner who lives in one of the council members' district, and I was having dinner with this person yesterday, and he was saying, it's amazing to see what is going on with the bridge. And he said, what I saw, I was just amazed that this, the council member didn't like this particular bridge or had concerns about it, but he was very, very excited about what was happening, and he is a huge business owner that moved from Highland Park into one of the council members' district. And so he was very, very excited about what he saw, and that's the reason he moved into the area, because of new things was happening in that area. And I am excited because what this does, it helps the southern sector, I think. Even with the Margaret Hunt Bridge, and even with the Horseshoe, the SM Ride, expanding the Dead Man's Curve. It's just exciting time, I think, for the southern sector. If we really, really take the time and look at what's going on, I think it's a plus for inner city communities like where I live to enhance. I think long-term it can bring business development into areas like where I live, and Mr. Caraway and others. I think what it does, it helps you to look at a workforce of opportunities. And so I think this is a plus. I will be supporting items 11 and 12. And I'm hoping that the mayor moves forward so we can move forward with our day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you. Let's take the record vote. Let's take the record now. One more, right? Oh, Mr. Allen's not there, yeah.
Voting in favor, council members Ann Margolin, Davis, Hasso, Caraway, Mayor Rawlings, council members Alonso, Mayor Pro Tem Medrano, council members Grayson and Hill, and Mayor Pro Tem Atkins. Voting no are council members Hunt and Griggs. Absent on city business is Jerry Allen. Absent due to conflict of interest is Linda Coop. And absent when vote taken is Chevy Cadane. The motion carries, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. For those citizens of Dallas, I think it's important to recap what has happened today. Another act in our vision for the Trinity River is coming to pass. This has been something we've all been working on for the last 2 decades, really, when you think about what's happened with the Trinity River. It's something I think we all agree unanimously around this council that the Trinity River can be a defining asset for the city of Dallas in the 21st century. And when you think, for so long, people were saying there's not enough going on, and now you start to see these things happening. We've got the great signals from the Corps about the safety of our levees. We have opened up the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge and opened up into West Dallas. We passed bond elections for trails, for bike trails down in the Trinity River. We've approved a horse park and to be able to ride throughout the Great Trinity Forest. We've gotten the good news on our golf course in that same area. And now, this spring, we'll be breaking ground on another magnificent bridge. I hope this summer we can start digging on some lakes next summer. I'd like it this summer. I think we all would. Something Ms. Hunt and I were talking about. So I just want to say, I think it's time to take a deep breath and say, look at all these things happening. It has happened because of a lot of people's hard work, some great philanthropists that have stepped up in a major way from the private sector. And whether you are excited about the aesthetics or the quality of life or the safety, there's a lot of reasons to be happy about our progress with the Trinity River. So congratulations, City Council, and congratulations, leaders of the Trinity Project. Thank you. With that, I will suggest we move the boards and commissions and get that business out of the way.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agenda item number 34 is consideration of appointments to boards and commissions. You have for your consideration to the Cultural Affairs Commission, Linda L. Riley, as having performing arts experience, is nominated by Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Atkins. To the City Plan and Zoning Commission, Betty Culbreth is nominated by Councilmember Caraway, and these are individual appointments.
So moved.
Got a motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried.
Mike.
Mr. Atkins, I'm sorry.
I just want to thank Linda Riley, for the